You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J Loureiro.
Welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. And I'm here once again sharing with you a vulnerable episode, not necessarily for anyone to have pity on me, but to hopefully normalize your own experience around money and money mindset issues. Because I think a lot of the time when you hear the term money mindset or, I have money issues, it's this really big place of shame. No one really wants to talk about it. No one really wants to talk about how they have money mindset issues. And it's kind of this big thing in the coaching space where if you have money mindset issues, therefore you can't invest in yourself or you're not going to go very far because you have to deal with all of these issues. And one of the things that I've loved about growing up with anxiety is the whole idea that your anxiety is always trying to tell you something. And so if you have money mindset issues, chances are you have some sort of anxiety, some sort of fear around money, right? And if we normalize that, as a common trait of the human experience, I think that that's the quickest way through it. And so I'm here to normalize my experience. And hopefully by normalizing my experience, I inspire you to normalize yours. Because I think that a big mistake that we often make is just thinking that no one else has these issues, that we're the only ones who have them, and therefore that's why we're stuck and that's why we suck. And I'm kind of here to basically tell you quite the opposite. I have made over $3 million online now, and I would have never made that money in my 9-to-5, so that's a really great thing. But at the same time, I've made $3 million with also having money traumas and with also, having very legitimate fears at the end of months, having legitimate fears in terms of what I didn't make during a launch or what I didn't make during a year. And logically, I know that those things are totally fine, but subconsciously, they're not. I still feel the fear. I still have the anxiety. It hasn't completely gone away. And I think that that's another thing that I want to discuss is how we think that we need to eradicate everything that's wrong with us all the time. It's like if we're not fully fixed, there is something wrong with us. And what I've done that's been insanely helpful for me over the past year is I've just learned to accept it, you guys. I've learned to accept it. I cannot tell you how many different types of therapies that I have been through to help myself with my money mindset issues. Because I was like, okay, here we go. Someone else who's high up in the coaching space is also telling me that they have another method that they can help me with. And, I'd talk to a mentor and the mentor would tell me to do hypnotherapy because that's going to completely change my life. I've done the hypnotherapies. I've done the alternative healing methods. I've done my yoga, I've done my meditation, I've changed around my diet, I've changed around my lifestyle, I've done the journaling, I've made $3 million, and I still have it. So here's your permission slip to be okay with having money mindset issues. What is not okay is allowing the money mindset issues to run the show. What is not okay is to allow the money mindset issues to make your decisions for you. That is when you lose. That is when you don't succeed. So if you, let's say, for example, want to invest in a new coach and your money mindset issues are saying, no, you can do it on your own, that's going to make you lose. It's not the money mindset issue itself. It's the way you make decisions based off of it. And I'll tell you a few different ways that I've done quite the opposite. So instead of going and listening to the money mindset issue, I've actually done quite the opposite of what it has told me to do. And that's why I have become so successful financially in my business. So if you have never looked up money archetypes, I would highly recommend that you do this. I actually used to have an entire module in a mastermind that I was doing for a few years, just on money archetypes, just on understanding what the money archetypes are. And every time that I do the money archetype quiz, I always get the accumulator. The accumulator is the person who just accumulates funds. You're just kind of almost afraid of spending. Throughout my whole life, my dad was a very, very frugal person. He still is. And he owned a business. And my family was, doing well, but we always acted as if we were really, really poor. My whole life. I just remember my parents saying, we don't have money for that. We can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. And I had a few experiences in my childhood where I thought that my family was running out of money. My family was not running out of money. Quite the opposite. I had no idea that my parents stopped having a mortgage when I was 6 years old. Could you imagine? My parents stopped having a mortgage when I was really, really young. And I kid you not, I just had no idea. I was only told that information in my late 20s, early 30s. But throughout my whole life, I understood that we were always about to go broke. My dad would always say things like, I don't make any money in the winter, so therefore in the summer, I have to make sure that anything that I make, I save so it can last us all winter. We were like bears in hibernation, essentially. And this really affected me in a lot of different ways. It affected me when I went to the mall and bought clothes. It affected me in the way that I'd go out to dinner and I decide to not order the glass of wine. I remember my mom, one time when we went out to dinner, she was like, Sarah, why don't you just get the wine? Treat yourself, get the wine. And I couldn't make myself get the glass of wine. I just couldn't, because I thought, no, I need to save those $8 back then. I don't think we can ever get a glass of wine at dinner for $8 anymore. But I didn't get it because I genuinely was afraid of, spending money on something that was quote unquote frivolous. And so you might even be listening to this and be like, that's ridiculous. Why would you not do that? You might have a completely different money archetype than I do. You might have a completely different way of viewing money, and that's okay. What I'm trying to be here talking to you about is how we can normalize what it is that we went through, and we can normalize the kind of money trauma that we went through, and we can still succeed. So this money mindset brought me all the way into business. And in business, it looked like I cannot spend money on this thing because what if I need this money later? And I've had clients like this, and my heart just goes out to them when they tell me these things, because I'm like, honey, it's going to be okay. You're always going to be making more money. Everything is going to be okay. You just made $20,000. I had a client who had just made $20,000, and she was just like, well, what if I can't make it again? And I've been there. Even in the beginning. What if this doesn't work? I invested thousands and thousands of dollars into coaches and into programs, being like, okay, well, it's either we go big or we go home. Was I terrified of doing it? Yeah, I was. I'm still terrified of doing those things. And every single month that goes by, there's always that little voice inside my head saying, well, can we do this again? Can we really do this again? And if I have a low week, or if I have a low 2 weeks in business, that's when the little voice comes back, and that's when the little voice says, okay, maybe now it's over. Maybe now, 7 years later, truly now, Sarah, this is when your luck is over. And then the next month comes and it's even bigger. And this happens all the time. It just happens in waves. And no matter how many times it happens, no matter how many times my husband has to remind me, oh, hey, you just said this 3 months ago. It's the same fear that hops on and comes along to greet me, to, stand beside me every single time. And like I said, I've done the hypnotherapy. I've done the rewiring. I've done the coaching. I've done the journaling. And each and every person in the coaching space that I speak to, they're just like, well, you haven't tried my thing. And I'm done with trying things. I'm good. I highly recommend trying those things. Don't get me wrong. But at a certain point in time, you just need to understand that that might be your MO. That might be your modus operandi. And it's okay. You can still succeed. That's still my MO. That's still my autopilot in my brain. And I still made $3 million. So even saying that out loud kind of is crazy. And so many of you probably might be listening to this being like, how do you do it? How do you make the $3 million? you don't make decisions based off of the part of your brain that's telling you, oh my God, no, we need to save, or oh my God, we can't spend that money. You need to make decisions based off of quite the opposite. You need to make your decisions based from a place of desire and logic, not from the subconscious gut feeling that sometimes feels like a gut feeling, but really is fear. And it's you being afraid. And I have a really fun story about this too. So back in 2020, when I was building what I thought was my dream home, which I later left and now I Airbnb. But back in 2020, I was building this gorgeous home. And one of the main features that I wanted to have inside of this home was a freestanding bathtub overlooking the forest. So it had to have a beautiful long mirror in front of it overlooking the forest, freestanding bathtub with its own like little water faucet with, like the handheld shower hose thing. Very, very pretty. I'm so in love with this thing. I love the fact that I can still look at it. I love the fact that other people can enjoy it. But when I was planning on getting it, I actually had to custom order the bathtub to Nicaragua because people here just don't use bathtubs, let alone very luxurious freestanding bathtubs. It's just not something that they have in stock. Okay. So we had to pre-order it. It was going to take a few months. I think it was like $3,000 or something like that. And I remember looking at my bank account because I was just putting all of my money into this house, And I remember looking at my bank account and saying, well, damn, should I really be using more money on this house and money on this frivolous bathtub, right? What if I don't make any money next month? What if I don't make them any money the month after that? What happens? What if I can't do this anymore? Am I just going to look silly with this beautiful bathtub but no job? Like, what do I think I'm doing? And that was what was going on in my head. And so I was like, I can't do this. There's no possible way. I'm going to look like a total idiot having this beautiful bathtub and I'm not going to make any money anymore. I swear to you that this was going on in my brain. And then I looked at that and I was like, no. We're paying for the bathtub. We're doing this. Why are we doing this? Because I have never given up on myself prior to this. There has never been a moment in time where I have not made things work, where things have not aligned for me. So if there's never been a moment in time before this, there will not be a moment in time now. And I need to prove to myself that I'm safe, that everything is okay. And I bought the bathtub, paid for the bathtub. The next month, we had one of our biggest months in business, just like that. And could you imagine if I didn't buy my bathtub? Could you imagine if I didn't go through with that? It would have been silly. When would I have ever bought it? When would it have ever have been a great purchase? If every single month I'd be like, well, what if I don't make money next month? I did the same thing when I was in Italy. And I remember we were in Milan and we were right beside the Gucci store. And so Jorge, my husband, was like, why don't we just go into the Gucci store? You've always wanted to buy a Gucci bag. Why don't we buy one? Why don't we actually, for once, buy a designer bag? Especially here, you get the discount on the VAT because we're Canadians. So I was like, okay, yeah, we'll go into the store, but I'm not going to buy anything. I go into the store and they show me all of these like beautiful purses. And then my husband's just like, you're buying one. He's one of those types of husbands, by the way. He's not one of the husbands who's just like, let's just save. I'm the saver. He's the one who's just like, let's just go out and enjoy ourselves and appreciate our lives. And I'm so appreciative, so grateful for that. And so there's this one beautiful little bag. And I put it on and I'm like, this one looks really nice. And of course, he's like, chatting me up about it. He's like, oh, this looks so pretty. I love this color. I think this is going to be amazing. How much is this? $1,000? Yeah, why not? Why can't you buy it? You just had a $30,000 month. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm there and I'm so scared of buying this purse, even though I had a $30,000 month. And I'm looking in the mirror and I'm looking at this purse and I'm like, that voice inside my head was like, you cannot buy this. This is irresponsible. You cannot buy this. What if we come back from Europe and we stop making money? Then what are you going to think about yourself? Then this $1,000 purse is just going to look silly. You're going to look silly. You're going to look like an embarrassment. Those were all of the things that were going on in my head. And I almost didn't buy the purse, but lucky me, I have a really amazing husband. And he was like, we are buying the damn purse. So we bought it. We got out of it was right beside the Duomo. So if anyone's been to Milan, you know what I'm talking about. We got out, we went to this beautiful little coffee shop. I opened up my purse and I just told myself, you know what? I'm safe. I'm good. Nothing bad is going to happen to me. And I made $2 million after that. But yet in that moment, I was terrified. I had already made so much money in my business and I didn't want to buy an $1,000 purse. It's crazy. But at the same time, like I said, these are the things where it's okay to feel the fear. It's okay to acknowledge the fear, but you want to make the decision that's going to be in your best interest, not the decision that's based off of the fear. And once I started leading into the desires, which, by the way, started for me a long time ago from a lot of therapy and a lot of coaching. Once I started to lean into the desires, then that's actually when I started to get opportunities falling into my lap in my life. And so I got back from Milan and I started making more and more and more money because I started to scale my business. I took what I learned from that purse situation and I applied it to my business. I applied it to doing things that scared me. In fact, a few months later, I had the choice of either staying the same, growing my organic business. I was already around $40,000 a month, or scaling my business with ads. And so I was like, you know what? We're going to go big or we're going to go home. We're going to scale with ads. And I remember my mentor is telling me, how much I really needed to spend to get to the place that I wanted to go to. I was thinking about it. I was like, well, this could be a colossal failure. I could be a colossal embarrassment on myself if I go all in with this and it doesn't work. But I'm going to bet on the fact that I can make it work. And from that point onwards, my goal was not the money that I made. My goal was, no matter what, that I was going to continue to invest a high amount, higher than I felt comfortable, in my Facebook ads in order for me to get the result that I wanted to. But the result wasn't actually the goal, it was the activity. And not just the activity, but the activity that goes beyond the fear. So the activity, even though the fear was present. And that's literally what got me to double my income that year, was acting even though the fear was present. Acting, feeling the fear, and doing it anyways. And that's basically how I have grown my business is, I have anxiety around money. Yeah, I have all of those traumas that I just told you, and more. I have way more than that. But that's how I have decided to grow. And that accumulator money archetype isn't necessarily bad either. Another thing that I learned to integrate within myself was, that's also really smart. So I'm not just a money accumulator just to save and to be safe, but I'm also a money accumulator, which allows me to invest in assets. So I'm not just constantly splurging my money and truly enjoying life, but I'm also investing in assets so that one day working is optional. And that accumulator mindset and that fear, actually, a part of that fear of going broke and the part of that fear of never having money has also led me to build generational wealth. Because if I didn't have that fear, probably would just go all in on all of my vacations. I mean, I love going on really nice vacations. So probably just go all in on all of those things. And I probably wouldn't have saved as much in assets, and I probably wouldn't have built as many assets that I have now. So I also thank my money trauma. I thank my money mindset for trying to keep me safe, but I use it logically and not emotionally. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that I can say here is we want an emotional wellness and emotional well-being around money. And so we can have the fears, we can have the money traumas, we can have the money mindset issues. The journaling, the coaching, the hypnotherapy, the rewiring, all of it helps so much, don't get me wrong. But if it's still there subconsciously after you've done all of that work, don't worry about it. It's going to be there anyways. You can just invite it in, accept it in, but also just acknowledge the fact that it's literally just a thought and you have the power to make a decision that is going to change the rest of your life, because all of your decisions up until this point have likely been from money trauma, from money mindset issues. But if you make it a point to make a decision based off of where you want to go and not where you are, and based off of what if something great can happen and not what if something bad happens, you're already winning. And this is what I'm going to leave you with today is, you can have money mindset issues and still do really, really well and still become a millionaire yourself and still have a really, really great business. It's just all about what you choose to do with it. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this message, it would mean the world for me if you left a review or shared this episode with a friend. Thank you once again, and I will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.